Good afternoon, everybody. This is Tim Burgers at the Home Care Alliance. I'm very happy to welcome you to this or webinar presentation on remote patient monitoring. Just for your information, all attendees are on mute. If you have questions, please type them into the question box in the bottom right of your screen. We will address all the questions at the end of the presentation. But if you have a question as we go along, type it in so you'll get your question in the lineup. I'm very happy to introduce to you Eric Ole Bruning. He is head of business development for YouThisMe, a company that has a new remote patient monitoring system out there. And Ole, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thank you. Hey, everybody, and thanks for joining in. And thank you for being part of this presentation today. We are going to focus on remote patient monitoring and the different benefits on this. And at the end, we are going to talk about a pilot that we aim to get off the ground in January. So we have our product is a HIPAA compliant monitoring app, and we call it YouThisMe RPM. And with me today, we have our CEO, Seth Lachterman, who has kind of thought this whole thing up in the early days. And then we have our Gail Gendron, who is Director of Research and Compliance. And finally, our consultant, David Ball, from David Ball Consulting, and myself. So the presentations we have divided into 4 different categories: a general overview, advantages of RPM, a demo of the app, and a little discussion about the pilot. So what we have discovered through research is that RPM monitoring actually increases COPD and CHF patients' confidence in managing their diseases. It's instead of admitting patients into the system is deployed to the patients at home or at a clinic, which is cost effective in the long run for sure. Now, RPM is here to stay, and we can kind of see that with the new CPT codes for CMS and how they have agreed to reimburse RPM RPM systems. And the thing is that it links to a smarter healthcare and better patient care scenario when using RPM. And it eventually increases the efficiency, which is needed desperately to keep costs down. Now, there are many advantages in using RPM, but some of them is it frees up resources. Once you get involved with RPM, you would realize that certain resources will be freed up from previous, infrastructures in your business. It also creates new revenue streams that we can get into a little bit later. Plus, as I'm sure you know, it reduces readmissions. All of this motivates the patients to adopt a healthier lifestyle, and it helps them, improve their compliance with treatment. Now, the key to successful monitoring is simplicity, simplicity, simplicity. It is crucial, I cannot stress this enough, that whether it's us or somebody else, stay simple. The simpler it is in the beginning for you, the easier it would be and the cheaper it would be to get started with RPM. I mean, I'm sure you all know about Epic, which is a major company that has an electronic healthcare platform. But lately, they have had a lot of uncomfortable hiccups. A few years ago, the VA had they signed a deal with VA actually for 175,000 COPD patients. Now, a few years later, there's still only 10,000 people on the platform. Why? Because the platform is next to impossible to use. And that's a major, major issue. Now, it's not to ruin your day or anything, but it's important that you know these facts in order to push back on the intense pressure that this giant company will apply to you. Another scenario of this issue with the challenges for Epic is that back in 2013, the Danish government contracted Epic to build a national healthcare platform to the tune of $6 billion. Yes, it's $6 billion. Today, 5 years later, there are only two hospitals who are now using the platform. So it's so bad that the government is actually considering to scrap the whole platform and start over. And that is not good business. So if you can, avoid complicated and expensive platforms. You'll be happy you did. And the reality is that there's no need for a Rolls Royce when you can get around fine in a Ford. So why us? Well, we have created a simple and user-friendly app, which we will demonstrate in a little while. It's easy to install, requires minimum training, and can connect to existing EHR systems. So there's no special software, anything that has to be written. It works very complete, very, very simple. And best of all, we priced it competitively, which you would also see at the end of the presentation. So let's focus on the app. This is a demo of the app, just an overview, a detailed demo of the app. We hope you will be enticed enough to contact us so we can meet and then give you a detailed presentation, plus talk about our upcoming pilot. Now for patient setup, Case Manager's dashboard. The Case Manager logs into the app on a mobile device or on a lab. In this case, it would be the laptop. And then the top bar adds a new patient. For this demonstration purposes, we have chosen patients with congestive heart failure and COPD. And for these measuring procedures, they include systolic and diastolic data, pulse and oxygen, and finally, weight. Now, when this form is filled out, based on the data that is given by a doctor to a case manager, the case manager hits the Create Patient button, and now back in the dashboard, we can see that the new patient has now been added. Very simple. And again, I want to stress here that there are not a million buttons that you can get confused in. What you see is what you get, and it works absolutely perfectly. Now, the patient's experience is that at discharge, he's sent home with monitoring devices. Will be an iPhone with the app on, a scale, a blood pressure cuff, and a pulse ox. So the next day, he logs into the app, and the opening screens looks like something like this, and it clicks Get Started. He's then asked 3 simple questions. How do you feel today? How is your breathing? Would you like a call? And for this demonstration purposes, we have chosen worse to the first 2 questions and yes for the third one. Now he's ready to log his data. And in this case here, the pulse readings involves putting the clip onto the finger and sends oxygen saturated and heart rates. The moment the data pops up on the device, it's sent to the phone. And once it's on the phone, the data is now logged in the system. Next, the same procedure follows for the scale. He gets up on the scale and sends the data, the weight to the phone, and then is moving on. And finally, here he puts on the cuff, clicks the start button, that swells up until it reads the data, and then again sends information to the phone. Now he clicks done, and he's done for the day. However, because he answered worse to the questions and yes, an alert pops up on the screen that looks similar to what you see on the right side. One or more of your responses or readings needs attention. Your case manager will call you soon. Again, this could have been much more involved, but all it needs is that the patient needs to know the data has been sent and there's an alert and somebody will call him right away. Now, alerts are triggered if vitals exceed baseline values, if there's missing data, or if the patient hasn't responded within a preset time, and of course, if they need a request. Now, the good news about our app is that it alerts directly to the case manager with chart readings. Very important. Not any other developers of remote patient monitoring is currently doing this. So here again is the final screen. He hits done, and this is what the app looks like, and he can move on. Now the case manager can receive the data both on a mobile device and on the phone. I mean on the computer, sorry. And here we can see that the responses that the patient sent in earlier pops up on the phone. Now, if we go to the dashboard on a computer, this is what it looks like. On the left side of the screen, we have the answers for the questions, and on the right side, we have over a period of times monitorings of the patients of how his conditions has been. And again, if you look at the top, there are no extra buttons to confuse anybody. This is what it is, and it works well. Now, this screen here, we worked on a lot, believe it or not. What we have done is that we've created a very simple color-coordinated alert system, again, with speed in mind. And for this, it's that the red is overdue, yellow needs follow-ups, and green, it's on everything is fine. Now, another function that we have and that we would love to show you for those who are interested in our pilot, because it is quite interesting. The reason we're not showing it here today, it gets a little more involved, so it takes a longer time. So, but for a live presentation, this, I think you would like this a lot, actually. What it does is a multi-patient monitoring. Basically, what it means is that the same set of monitoring devices can be used by many patients. Hence the reasons for this compressed scenario, and the initial cost savings here is quite amazing, because let's say you have 50 patients, you can use the same scenario on 50 patients as opposed to 50 different monitoring devices. It also is very efficient in the fact that it enables a case manager to monitor hundreds of patients on a weekly basis. Okay, we'll move on to the pilot. We are looking to start a pilot in early next year, ideally in January. And the pilot would last for 3 months, and we are looking to sign up 200 patients with COPD. Now, the setup of the pilot includes some of the main issues here, which are, it's very good to form a steering committee. People from the different departments, administrations, IT, logistics, etc. And you will do yourself a great favor if you assign a super user who kind of functions as a production coordinator, if you will, because there are certain issues that needs to be coordinated, and once there's one person in charge, it works very well. Hey, you can even have a webinar about this. No, just kidding. Anyway, the other elements of the setup is you recruit patients, you train them, And then also support. The training and the support is obviously what we do. We will train one of you guys and give you the support that you need, and then you can train your patients. And we have some interesting approaches to this, very low tech, but proven to be highly efficient. The last thing here is the vendor negotiations for the monitoring devices, which we'll talk a little more on the following screen. Now, cost involved in this pilot is $38 per patient per month. There is an initial one-time setup fee of $8,000, but for the purpose of this presentation or for the pilot, what we will do is that we will actually disperse that cost throughout all of the members who signs up, i.e. the more members who signs up, the better and the lower the price will. The next point two is a mobile carrier. RPM works with remote only with mobile subscriptions. But this is where HCA comes in very handy, because they can negotiate on behalf of the members who are signing up for this pilot a much lower price or subscription fee than it would be able, that the individual members would be able to. Now, the cost of the phones can vary. We have seen prices anywhere from $1 and up to $40. But again, depending on how many will sign up for the for this pilot, obviously the more, the lower the price would be. And the phones can be used again and again. It's not a phone that you give the patient. It's like a loaner, and once the pilot is over, you will get them back and can use them for new patients, or if there are existing patients that you want to continue after the pilot is set up. And monitoring devices, the prices for the monitoring devices varies, but you should be able to spend about $250 on this and get the proper monitoring devices. So at the end of the pilot, we will put together a report and send it out to all the participants to help you clarify the pros and cons for what has just transpired. And we also suggest that you check out the CPT codes and get more involved in that. And we have Gail, our compliance officer here, is pretty well astute in this. So Gail, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
All right. I was wondering if you could just shed a little light on these CPT codes, if you don't mind.
Sure. So hi, everyone. I think the reason that the CPT codes are in this presentation, even though they're not specifically directed at home care agencies, they're for the physicians to be reimbursed. They are an indication of how the feds and Medicare in particular is focusing on bringing remote patient monitoring into the industry. And I'm sure you're all aware of the changes with the home health PPS, where you will now be able to write off the cost of RPM to administrative costs. So that's just an indication of how it is being recognized as a good service for patients and something that you're going to see more of going forward. That's all. Thank you, Ole.
Great. Thank you. All right, guys, this concludes our presentation, and we'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have. And for those who are interested in detailed demonstrations and about our upcoming pilot, please provide Tim with your contact information, and we will call you and send you a sign-up form. Thanks again.
Great, thank you, Ole. If anybody has any questions, you can type them into the questions box on the right side of your screen. And if you're interested in learning more about the pilot, you can also either indicate that in the questions box, or you could send me an email, tburgers@thinkhomecare.org. expressing your interest, and I will get you connected with Oli for the pilot. So I
Right.
don't see any questions as of yet, but let's wait just a minute.
Yep. Okay.
No questions, I guess. Oli, you were crystal clear in your instructions and your description. I get no question.
All right.
But again, if anybody thinks of a question after the fact, you can certainly email them. Looks like somebody just posted a question. Let's see. I see a thank you, Oli and HCA.
You're welcome.
Question: what average age of patients are you targeting in the pilot?
There's really no average age, but I would, normally people above 60 seems to be more prone for these types of services as opposed to 30 on.
Any other questions? I guess not. We did record this, and we'll be posting it to our YouTube page, and people who registered will get a link so you can review it if you like, or people who registered but weren't able to attend will still be able to listen to it as well. So I guess that concludes the webinar. Thank you very much, Oli and team, and thank you members for signing in.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Tim.
you. Have a good night.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.